We serve a very faithful God. And He's given us all different talents, and He uses us all differently. And so you're going to see a little different presentation here. My story will come out in bits and pieces as I'm illustrating points. And so the session we're moving into now, it's called Acknowledging Our Need. And it is important as a people and as a church that we realize that is so foundational to everything that is in Christianity, is realizing our need for Him. Because we live in a culture that has a big front. We live in a culture that values power and strength and money and keeping a good face, and everybody's running around trying to fool everybody that they've got it all together. And we live in a world like that, and that's what they want. You have to be quick, you have to be bright, you have to be all these things. And unfortunately, we have allowed that to creep into the church, to where we have kept the face on and we have looked all good and everybody's fine. Bless God. And because of that, many times we are not getting the help we need, and those who need help are not coming and getting it because we've got the image on and we've got it. And so nobody wants to come in and says, I've got a problem, because y'all got it together. And we have to come to the place where we have to say, do I want to be healthy, or do I just want to present it? Because the Lord Jesus wants to continue to do a work in us. He wants us that realizing that place of need to let Him do that work. You see, we all come to Jesus and we come to Him in salvation. We can't save ourselves. We know we can't get into heaven, but we get born again and then we're like, I'm driving the car now and I've got the agenda and we're going and I'm making this work. And that's not the way. We're talking specifically about homosexuality in this conference, but it's all the life-dominating sins and all the things that are struggling in our lives. We have to come to that place of letting Him do the work. Instead of thinking we can make it happen or those kinds of things, but continuing getting back to that basics of Him. In AA and other NA and other types of programs, they all have one of the steps where they say, my life's becoming unmanageable, I can't change. And though they're focused on a particular topic or a particular struggle, that's the reality. I can't change anything. And I need Him more every day, that He has to do that change. You see, it isn't just homosexuality. It isn't just drunkenness. It isn't just immorality. Those are just roots of the bigger problem. And we get all caught up and focused on the root. Not that things don't have to change, but that root is just showing us the bigger problem. See, in Romans 7:18, it says, nothing good lives in me. That's in my sinful nature. That's in my flesh. And it's like we forget that. You know, and I'm going to try and illustrate this with my hands, and I'll be moving over here with my microphone to tell it. When you get born again, a new life began. And He begins a work in you and begins something. But you see, you've been living as this old man all your life. And so part of that sanctification process is Him continuing to put this has no power anymore, but that's all I know. That's the way I think, that's the way I've been, that's the way I've done. It didn't just boom because He brought something over here. The sanctification process is allowing this to continue to die and be broken, that He would change me, that then I become over here. That's the process of him breaking. That's the cross. The cross isn't whipping myself. The cross is submitting and letting my old continue to die, that his new transforms in me. See, I can't change anything in me, but he does it as I let this old die and I let the mindsets go as he wants to change it. And he begins to build and transform me over here. Too many times when we're talking about hard issues, we get so stuck on the issue and we forget it's a fruit of that sinful nature that has to be broken up. And as I've walked out of sin, it's not focusing on a particular issue. He's had to do healing in my life, yes, but it's been the breaking of that old nature that by his power that has transformed me and made me different. We have to get back to realizing that as a church, of walking in ourselves and then being able to offer that as saying, the Lord's done these things in me and he can do them in you. It doesn't matter how big. And he's continuing to do them in me. I'm willing to own up to where I'm still falling short, and I'm continuing to come to that cross to let it die, and I'm continuing to let him change and make me over here. And you see, we as the church are supposed to be a hospital, not a museum. People should be able to come in the door and know we are walking it out, but where we aren't, we are facing it and we're letting Jesus continue to do the change in us. I'm not just going to put another layer of makeup on to cover it. I'm going to continue to let him change me and say, I'm missing it here. And I'm willing to admit that and let him continue to change me. People who watch me change see Jesus at work. They know that I'm fallen, but they see his character growing in me because I'm letting him build that character in me that I could never do. So the very foundation of us ministering, as my sister was saying, is loving the lost, is also realizing we have the power, but we have to continue to walk in that power, which means I have to continue to let him transform me. Because I need his transformation every day. I need him continually working in me because I don't want to be a year from now where I'm at now. Because I want more of Christ showing through me and less of me. That old man is continuing to die and this new man is continuing to be changed by his power. He's the one that's changing that. As I'm submitting that old and letting it die, I'm letting him build that new. And that's the foundation of the hope that we offer. But we have to live it. It has to be every part of my life to say, yes, Lord, I come to you and I'm laying down my way to die. That you would continue to make me like you, and that which doesn't look like you, that would continue to pass away. As you're working it, that I'm continuing to become more and more of this man. And that's acknowledging our need, because I need his change. And as I walk in that, I can show somebody how to do that no matter what they're struggling through. Doesn't mean it's going to be instant, but I'm showing them, that through this process, the power that's in that cross can break these old things in you as well as it does in me, and as you're seeing it do in me. We had a participant in our ministry, because I'm part of Reconciliation Ministries now, and we do the Living Water program. We had a participant come back for the second year, and she goes, I just can't get over the change in you. As you're teaching, I can see difference of what God, and that encourages me in my walk, because I see how much you're letting him grow you and how you're changing. And so we have to allow people to come in to the body of Christ broken and not think they have to put a song and dance out and clean up. We're not going to let them play around in sin. We're going to call them out of it, but we're also going to give them that opportunity, and we're going to be dealing with our own stuff too. And we're also helping them because we're following in the same process. So many times in the church we have pointed at people, but we're not dealing with our own stuff. And they're like, well, you going to get mad at this? What about that? But I'm willing to let him continually do his breaking, because that old is not acceptable. And as he continues to show that and transform me, he does the transforming. I submit to what he wants, and through that process, he does change in me. But that's so foundational is recognizing my need for him to change and his righteousness to be imparted in me. Because that is what it's all about. Because if we're going to let others see others be freed, we have to be willing to continually acknowledge what we need here. I'm not someone who has it all together that's telling you. I've seen what he's doing in me and continuing to need to do in me, and I'm following the process that I'm calling you to follow. I'm dying to what I used to be and letting him transform and change me inside of me, and it's flowing out. It's not a production that I'm doing. Because all of that was provided for in the cross, but it's a process. Because if when you came to Jesus, if everything that wasn't like him was removed, there'd be nothing there, and we wouldn't be able to handle it. So he takes that sanctification process of removing that which is not like him, and that means I'm submitting into his way and surrendering and letting that die, saying, Lord, your way. And as that dies off, he's building in new and showing me how to live over here. But it starts at the very foundation. We're asking people in our society to acknowledge they need him. Well, we need him. And continued transformation that I'm calling in your life, I need to continually let him do in mine. That I'm changing, becoming more Christ-like. You see, in my healing, I got so caught up in the fruit. And I was sitting at the top of the tree picking all the apples off, saying, if we could just get rid of this. And the Lord just is at the bottom with his axe going, no, the whole tree got to go. I was like, really? I just thought a couple things up here were the problem. No, the whole old nature has to go. It's not just a couple fruits or things that we're seeing, but everything of me has to go. It isn't just a couple things over here. And so we have to get under his plan and his way and his agenda and let him do the work and continually throw our agenda and our way out that he would do what he wants to do. And so God wants to do something in all of us today. That's why we're here. We're having altar times. That's what we're giving this to. And we're going to do something right now that we don't do in our society. We're going to be quiet. And we're going to take a minute or two. I want you to close your eyes and sit before the Lord and say, Lord, what are you putting your finger on in me today? What do you want to do in me today that needs to happen? Okay? John 15:5 says, he's talking about the illustration of the vine and the branches. Without him, we can do nothing. We can accomplish a lot of stuff without him, but we really accomplish nothing unless we let his power work. And when we live a life like that, we will see a lot of things that don't need to happen stop happening, because we're so many times busy running down the road that he has to say, yo, come back here. That he wants us to realize, Lord, if you're not directing me and I'm not following your plan, that's not going to happen. So help me see what you want to do. Because without him, I can do nothing. Dying to what I want. Death that brings life. Matthew says, unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, does not bring life. And that's dying to the old ways, our old thinking, our old being in charge, old running the show, and letting him work. And that's where the life comes out. That my confidence in is what he can do through me when I submit, when I let him work, that I cannot do it by myself. That's why Jesus said to the disciples, you must humble yourselves and become as little children to enter the kingdom. Not that we will become childish, but childlike. Means we'll let him lead, let him trust him, and let him do instead of trying to tell him how to do it. Because he is the boss. And he's in charge. And us, in our fallenness, want to run the show instead of letting him work and letting him produce change in me that will be eternal. Galatians 2:20, it's no longer I live, but Christ lives in me. That's the idea, is it's called the exchanged life. It's no longer about me, but it's about letting him live through me. It doesn't mean I don't exist. We work together, but it's his agenda now and not mine. It's no longer the old way. It's no longer about me. It's about surrendering to his plan, letting him work his way, his plan through me, continually changing and making us different. And so it doesn't matter if the things in my life are homosexuality, drunkenness, alcohol, immorality, or whether it's gossip. Because he's wanting to do the breaking, that's which is not like him becomes like him, that I be the fragrance of Christ, that people see Christ in me. Because they see his character flowing in me, because what was of me isn't anymore. I'm letting him flow and change me, and he begins to flow and be that power through me that people see something different. Because the old me is dying and passing away, and I'm continuing to let the old things die, that I might then let these new. And of course, along with that is a lot of sin, immorality, all these things that went with the old person, but is a lot of letting him work through me. Because it comes down to, when we're talking about the brokenness, and Krista said this morning, that people are broken in trying to love. People are broken in trying to look to all these other things for love in all the wrong places, trying to get legitimate needs met by illegitimate things. And we in the church have to show them not just that we have Jesus as the answer, but we're walking out the answer. Because we're letting him meet my need when I used to do other things. But I'm also letting him continually work and flow through me, that I can then be a channel to love others, that I can be, I let him meet my needs, not doing it the old ways. And letting him change me, then they begin to see there is something here. Because I'm demonstrating and letting him show. Because I can't do anything apart from him. That great grandma Eve was the one that started the whole thing wrong, you know? Genesis chapter 3. But that is the essence of our sinful nature. What did the devil do? He goes, hey, baby, I got something better. And God's calling you to miss out on all the good stuff. So not only did he say there was no death from sin, there's no consequences, there's no problem, but he also said God's nature is that he really isn't good. He wants to keep the good from you. And that's what our human flesh nature believes. If I'm going to get the good stuff, I can get my needs met, I got to do it myself and my way. Because it's not going to get met if I rely on him. But the reality is that he's the one that the answers, he's the one with the good stuff, and it's not gonna, because sin is our tendency to look to our own devices to make the way things work, meet my own plan, meet my own need. And instead of letting him do as he sees fits and letting him do the work. And then when we're doing that and running the show, we then become slaves to our brokenness that we've been doing to try and get the needs met. And we get in bondage to those things because we've been trying to run it outside his plan. And sin will always bring bondage, chains and destruction. Every time. See, he's into moving us out of the center of the universe and putting himself in the center of the universe. That we then revolve around him and his way and plan and let him work through us. And that's how people see him in us. And a lot of times we were just like, Lord, why is it taking you so long to work? I know none of you ever said that. But what I've learned is that we are thick-headed, stiff-necked, stubborn, and opinionated, and we try and run the show. And he is so patient, because the sooner I learn to get out of the way, I've been like, wow, you can really move. Well, he's been waiting for me to get out of the way. And it's not that he isn't capable of moving quickly. We many times get in the way with our opinion, our agenda, our stubbornness, and not submitting, because the cross is submitting to his plan and letting what I want die, that he might work and embrace through me. And the sooner I learn to do that, the quicker I let him change me, and the quicker he can work. And these are so foundational, but these are what we have to live, and we have to show to those that are lost to coming in, because they don't need a big production. They need some practicals. How do I get from hell that I'm living in to somewhere else? And it can't just be a scripture saying, come to Jesus and be saved, which it's the beginning, but it's not the end. Take two scriptures, don't call me in the morning. No! We have to say, come to Jesus and let us show you how to let him transform. Not here's a self-help book to get your help together and then come to church and look good. No. Come to Jesus and let us walk with you, and we'll help you see how to let these old things die, because I let him do it to me. Whether I have your bondage or not is not immaterial. I've all had my own loss, and it all has to die, and I can show you how to walk this out, and we'll walk with you. We may have to bring some people in those specifics to see some healing in your life so you can let things go, but we've all walking out the same death life. And that's what we can show to others, because in that death to the old, new life is coming, which is him flowing through me, which is what I'm offering to you, not some religious dance. And so as I continually seeing my need for him every day, letting him change and work through me, then I can naturally share it with you, because I'm living this. I'm not pretending. And we can't pretend, because our world sees right through it, because they're pretending. Last thing they want is another group of people doing what they're doing. We want to continually and change should be happening in my life, but because I'm continually letting the old die, I'm continually surrendering and letting his new change, making me that new man. You see, in my life, when I came to Christ, I was dealing with same-sex attraction. I had abuse in my background, all kinds of things. And so my idea was, if I date enough women, I will acquire a taste, and I will begin to build my attraction. And that's what we do. We figure we have a plan to make it change. So my plan was working fabulously. I happened to find out the most abusive women around, that dominated, because when you have an abusive background, that's what you're drawn to. So I went out with I could find the abusive woman in the crowd, which only reinforced why I didn't like women. So my great plan to try and change myself was just following what happens. Whenever we come with a plan to work it out, it's going to foil, because it's by our power trying to make it work, because we can't change anything. So by the time I was 20, I gave up women. I'm like, I had enough of this. I don't need any more crazy women. But so again, instead of saying, Lord, you have an answer, I continued on. I was in ministry. I was like, well, I'll not have a personal life, and I'll just hide in the ministry. because I can't deal with this personal life. There's just too many crazy things. I don't need crazy women. I was so broken. I'm like, okay, this is a safe place. I can just help people, which isn't a bad thing, but it was never meant to be a hiding. So eventually when I crashed and burned because I had used myself up trying to solve my own problem in ministry, and I was like, even as I crashed and burned, I'm like, oh, I'll take a year off and then I'll keep going, because we get so thick-headed that we're going to solve the answer. So I crawled out of one ministry and into another. And so I was working in Christian rehab. Teen Challenge is a Christian rehab. They have centers all over the country and the world. And so I'm a teacher counselor in Christian rehab. And these guys are all coming in and they're dumping out their problems. And I'm just like, and the Lord's just tapping on my shoulder saying, hello, we need to deal with you. I'm just like, I'm high functioning, Lord. I can make this work. And it's like, no. I'm just like, okay. So me and my infinite wisdom, it took me another 5 or 6 years before we were willing to deal with me. And I came to Detroit and I'm like, I can't do anything, Lord. I need your help so bad. Along came Living Waters. They're like, okay, you need some help. I'm like, yes, please. And through that, and through surrendering and letting him work, he began to do the change and transformation in me and began that process of doing that breaking and changing of all the things that I tried to make happen and change. He came in and started to do and started to heal and started to change. And I had to learn the whole thing had to die. It wasn't just the same-sex attraction issues. It wasn't just get rid of some pain. The whole system had to go. So the Lord came to me, and he had to knock the house down, cover the basement, dig a new basement, and build a new house. Because everything had to go. And I never realized that these issues that were screaming at the top were just tied to so many other things that had to be cut off and broken underneath for the issues to fall off the top. And so as I let him do healing prayer and breaking and changing my life, things were falling off. All these things I had tried to make happen myself were falling off as he was doing that change, and I was letting the old die. And then I could sit there, because when I started helping out in leadership of Living Waters, they're like, Craig, I'm going to give you a whole group of same-sex guys. I'm like, no, but he brought me in, and I was able to speak things, and I could sit there and say things to them I couldn't say anywhere else. I said, I was here, and they're like, oh, you've been there, but I'm not there anymore because he's done this and changed this and changed this. But he has done it and he can do it for you. It wasn't because I was this great disciplined person that had it all together and had a great life. I had to admit that I didn't know how to fix myself, that I couldn't change that. And everything he brings up in my life, I go back there and say, Lord, I can't change this. He puts things before me and I'm like, do it in me, Lord. Help me surrender and let you do it in me. And that's the way of life, is the old letting die and the new coming as he did that change. And so he's still doing a lot of change in my life. He's still doing a lot of work because still a lot of things still have to die. I was that old man a long time. And the closer I walk to him, the more I realize, ooh, that crack goes a lot deeper than I thought. It isn't just just these couple issues. He wants to do a lot more work. And as he does that work, and I continue to let him do that work, I can model for you and help you walk along the same trail because I'm doing it myself every day. And you're seeing me change, and you know he can do you because he's no respecter of persons. He's no respecter of persons. Because I still need him all the time. And so I can be very condensed, so it's working very well here. My throw out to you, because we've already sat there before the Lord and said, Lord, what do you want to put your finger on? But my throw out to you is you may not be dealing with the big stuff, but he's always calling us to some change. And he's always putting his finger on some things, and he's always wanting us to step into something new. And so My throw out to you is, what's keeping you from facing your need? What's keeping you? For a long time, I was afraid, and I said, if I face this, I'll get overwhelmed. Or this is all I know. This is what I'm comfortable with. But those things had to die. You know, if I see this problem, or if I feel this pain, they're going to take me away in white coats because I'll go nuts. But that's not the case. He wants to do the work. Some of us get in our pride. Well, everybody thinks I have it all together. How will they do it if I tell them I don't? They'll breathe a sigh of relief, you know? So, let go of this pride. We don't have it all together, but he's working in us. And as I show where he's working in me, it gives others hope. But I have to let down that pride of saying I have it all together, and what will people think? Some of us live with shame and self-hatred, and let that go. Let him take it. He can take it. It sounds simple, but he can take it. To not letting that run our lives or surround our hearts. And a lot of us, well, I've been following Jesus all this days. What would people think if they thought I didn't have this together? Well, you're on the process of holiness. You're walking the sanctification. That's part of that process of recognizing it. You know, we see so many people who were either leaders in the church or strong in the church that just leave. It's because of this, because you only can fake it so long. You can only try and keep this outside going so long. We want to make that environment so where people feel they have acceptance to be able to let things show and then get the healing and change they need. They have to. Well, you're going to go to the emergency room and say, I'm fine. Your head's bleeding, your arm's off, and you're going to say, I'm fine. No! You're going to say, I'm here for help. Do it to me. You know, and that's what we want to. We want to have that environment that happens because we demonstrate it. We show it. That's the only way things change. When people come in the door and see the legitimate in us, that I'm not justifying where I am. I'm letting him deal with me and change me, but I'm not going to pretend what I'm not. I'm going to continue to let him work. Then you are free to show your warts that we might get them burned off too, and let him show those things, because that's what we as the church have. We have the power of the King, but it's operating piece by piece in me, and I can walk with you as we show you how to walk and let that power work piece by piece in you. The most frightening thing for me was being in ministry. God was gracious. I was struggling with everything, and I was trying everything I knew. And he was working, but I had to sit back and go, I haven't changed. I know you're real, and I know you have the transforming power. I'm managing my same-sex attraction. I'm managing things, and I'm not acting out in things, but I haven't changed. And that was a frightening place to be in ministry, preaching the word, and knowing it was true, but I didn't know how to let him change me. See, so much of my life, I had so much fear and didn't trust anybody. The Lord had come in my life, but he hadn't gone any further than the foyer because I couldn't trust him. He wasn't getting in the rooms. He wasn't getting anywhere. And so he was sitting there patiently in the foyer, but I wouldn't let him do anything. So I wouldn't let him change. Even though I knew the power of him, I didn't know how to let him in. And as I started to let him in my life and he changed things, then I started to see that new transformation life happening. Because it wasn't me trying to hold it together and keep an act on. The best I knew, it was me realizing I couldn't hold it together and letting him change things and transform me. So now I can say, yes, I'm going to preach, but I know change because he's doing it in me. And I can know that the new life because I see it growing and flowing. And I know I'm not who I was. And it wasn't because I got a good exercise plan together and made it change. But he's doing a difference in me, and I'm not who I was because of his power. And so that I can give that hope to you because he can do the same thing in you. And that's what we offer the community. of saying, we're a place that, yes, we will love you. We will call you from the bondage of your life, but we'll walk you through it, and we'll show you step by step, walk through as you're learning to die to the old. Let him break out and build his new. His power is there to do the change. So it starts with us admitting, I have a need and I need his help. And that wasn't just at salvation. I need every day for him to do some change in me for the things that, you see, as you walk closer to him, the light gets brighter and he starts to show a lot more things. And he wants me to continue to say, Lord, I need you because I can't change this. And so we all have to come to that place of continually saying, Lord, do that change in me. What you put your finger on when we were quiet, Lord, I can't change. But I know you can. So do that change in me. Because I know I need. And I need you to continue to transform and your power continually change me. Because I'm not going to fake it till I make it. Because I'm never going to make it faking it. I'm only going to make it by him changing me and him transforming me and him doing in me. And that's what hope we have to offer the gay community, because he can change them too. As much as he changes us, transforms us, he can change them with that same power that puts the old to death. He can do that process when I'm willing to admit my fall, my failures, my problems, and get the help and the counsel and the prayer ministry that I need to see these things off my life change and be broken, that I might be like him. He can do the same for you. It may not be the same issues that I have had to deal with, but it's the same process. And so he can do the healing in you like he's done it in me, and he can do the change in you like he's done in me. And I'll walk with you through it, because that's part of being the body, that we don't just throw the word out there and figure they're going to figure it out themselves, but they come to Christ and they're birthed and we raise them. And we pour into them and we show them how to walk it out. And so it's concise, but I think is what we want. So that's what we had. Did you want to do? We had set a ministry time. Did you want to break for what did you want to do? We're going to hold off lunch a little bit because we're going to have lunch. But I've got some very capable people that can come up. And if the Lord's putting his finger on something and he's working on you, we want to invite you to come up and get some prayer. Because that's what it's all about. He's responding to what he's saying. And so I've got some very capable ministers, and myself will be up here. If you want to come up, we're going to take a little time and do some ministry, give opportunity, because we want to respond to what the Lord's saying to us and putting his finger on, that he would do a work. And then we'll hand it over to Nikki after that.